Hello, hello, hello. Good to see you. You would think she would have a wand in her hand if she thought she was going to record. You would think these things. Skills. Yes. You get fairy dust. I get fairy dust. Amelie gets some fairy dust. And welcome to another chapter of my eating disorder and recovery story. So last we left, I'm in treatment and it's fucking hard, but it's life-changing in that I finally feel seen and heard. I finally feel seen and heard and accepted for not just my ability to people please, but in my ability to be vulnerable. And it felt safe environment. And it was also very, I've been a deep bitch my entire life, just so fucking deep. And, it was labeled intense and all this other shit, and felt shame about it. But when you go to recovery, when you start recovery, you encounter people who have to be real in order to survive their illness, their addiction, and we would talk about deep shit, talking about the 12 steps and everything relating to them is fucking deep. And it was it was just so awesome in so many ways. It weirdly, this particular treatment, my first treatment center, and this was in 1991, I believe, it was a haven, and it felt kind of like a home for a little while. Like I said, it was 28 days of outpatient, but I do remember it being a very safe place for me, and one of the first times I felt seen and heard. So, okay, so I'm going to teach you a couple of the things that really stuck with me from that. So the first one was finding out I was just like every other addict. Like one of my whole things, I will never be a fucking alcoholic. I will never be that. I will never be that. Because I saw the havoc that it wrought on my entire family and just the insanity of it. And also, when you grow up around alcoholics, it's fucking scary. Like people driving drunk and you're in the back seat. Like, bridges used to terrify me. I lived in Florida, and so and that middle part of the bridge with all the grades, and it's like, oh God, just staring out the window, like, just please. It was scary, and the fighting and the yelling and the drama, it was like so overwhelming. And I'm never gonna be like that, never. And bitch, you're just like that. So I found out, like, it really hit home for me, because the treatment center, we had our special groups for the drug addicts, alcoholics, and the food addicts, those with us who had eating disorders. Excuse me. But most of the day we're learning the same shit all day long, and we're all talking about addiction, and we're hearing each other. Like my friend who is a cocaine addict and alcoholic, like my best friend I met there, who turned to be like a brother to me. I everything he was saying, I'm like, yeah, that's how I feel. Yeah, that's what I do. The only, difference, anyway, the only difference is, like, I could drive with like 2 dozen Krispy Kremes, 3 dozen Krispy Kremes, who am I fooling, in my car, and not go to jail or get pulled over or whatever, for that, versus if I was driving under the influence. So, the whole, I'm a fucking, that's where I really learned to my core, like, oh shit, I am this. Like, I did turn out like that. I just use a different drug. So that was huge for me. We learned the 12 steps. I don't remember how far we got into it or what we did, but I do know that we were asked to do the 4th step. Like, like at least do that. And the fourth step is taking our moral inventory. So really it's like delving into our entire past and finding all our resentments, all our issues, where I've been hurt, like, so we did do that there. I know that we did. And so so that was my first experience of like, oh, I'm an addict and I have to do this. This is how you get better. So that was the first I got of that. And that when we left, I was asked to do a 90 and 90 when I graduated. So that's 90 meetings in 90 days. So it was definitely 12-step based. And I found that to be very, 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 very helpful. The steps resonated with me, and so did the traditions. And the steps and the traditions make it really safe to be in those rooms. And that wasn't, it was always important for me to be super safe. So it ticked that box for me. So, okay. So we would, every now and then we'd all get together. So this is one of the all together in a big ass circle. And on this particular day, the therapist asked us to write like 10 things that were the most important things to us, like the most precious, most important things to us. And so she gave us out these little pieces of paper, and we were to write what are, the most, the things we would die for, whatever, the most important things. And then so she'd come around, so she'd walk in the circle, and then she'd come to one of mine, and she's like, this is number one. And so we gave her them in order. And then so she looked at it, and it said, my kids were my most important thing in my life. And then she did this. And then she went to the next person and did it to everybody else. And then the next one, let's say, family after that. Just matter-of-factly. And then just let the pieces fall to the floor, just like that. And you're watching her tear your shit up. Like, it is like so fucking upsetting. And then she's like, honesty or whatever. So it's like, and then she did this to all of us. She just kept doing it, kept tearing up pieces of paper. And we were pissed and we were upset and we were confused, and we didn't know, because that was the only prompt we got. Or just write down the things, and she destroyed them. And then we got to the end. And then at some point in my list, I put recovery. And so she handed that back to me. And so after everybody was done getting their shit torn up and, getting destroyed by this experiential exercise, she told us very simply, if our recovery is not number one to us, if our recovery is not the most important thing in our life, if our recovery is not the priority, we will lose all the other things. And if we put whatever we put in front of our recovery, we will lose that. And bitch, that was a fucking profound. Like, it was fucking profound. And it's really interesting, especially those of us who have the fawn response. It's unsettling and confusing to put to put my recovery in front of the people that I love. That felt very, there was a lot of dissonance with that. It didn't go well with me, and it was very upsetting and confusing as how I was going to do that. I didn't realize at the time I was a fawn. I knew I was codependent, but I thought that was just a side effect of my eating disorder, but it was not. It was my childhood trauma at play. So I found that to be a very difficult concept because it felt very, very selfish. And what we need to understand about our recovery and why it's first, and it makes sense, it resonates, right? Like, if I don't have my recovery first, if I'm binging and purging, how am I going to have good relationships with my kids? If I'm binging and purging, how am I going to teach them healthy coping mechanisms? Like, it's totally true. I will not want to spend time with them. I will not want to spend time with my kids. I won't want to spend time with my family or friends. I'm not interested. I want to isolate and I want to use. So of course I'll lose everything. And in the end, if I continue that behavior on and on, addictive behavior, just terrible coping, just resentments and bitterness and drama and bullshit and self-hate and all that, how am I not going to lose everything? Or those relationships will be destroyed and poisoned by my self-hate, poisoned by my self-loathings, poisoned by like zero self-care. And again, what am I teaching my kids? Not to have a self. Like, that's what I'm teaching them. So my recovery actually does have to come first. Our recovery has to come first. Your recovery must come first, or you'll lose it all. And if I were with you, I would ask you, hey, go ahead and make your list. And even though you know the trick, I'd want you to make it honestly and have you do it or do it with someone else. Like, have them tear those pieces of paper up right in front of your fucking face. It's that truth took us all aback. That has lasted. That memory, for me, I don't have a ton of memories. I'm not present for a lot of things, so I don't retain the memory of them very well. A lot of things are fuzzy, but that one's crystal fucking clear. That one's crystal clear. That really, really got me. Now, did I follow that for the rest of my life? No, I did not put my recovery first. No, I didn't think I needed it. One of my, and I haven't said this before on any of my content or whatever, is that like one of my worst or most toxic or whatever is that, oh, I don't have to do that. Like, that's for you, that's not for me. Like, you do a 90-90, I don't need to do that. Like, obviously which is very confusing because that seemed like it takes a lot of hubris to admit that, and I had no hubris. But there was something in my brain that was like, oh yeah, that's for you. That's for the peasants. That's for the little people. That's for somebody who is not whatever as me, which it's weird to me because I had zero self-esteem. Thought, one of the sayings in 12-step rooms is like, I'm the biggest piece of shit that the world revolves around. So that one super ego or inner saboteur shit or addictive voice shit is I don't need to do that. Like, and this is a bitch who's in fucking treatment, who also didn't think she needed to go to treatment. So, anyway. So yeah, I didn't put my recovery first. I battled that and felt self-righteous and didn't go to any lengths not to use. I relapsed so much throughout the rest. I came to understand that I needed more help than just for my addiction. I didn't really comprehend the childhood trauma that was alongside of all that. And so once that got managed, then recovery became feasible. I wish I could say easy, but I'll say feasible for me. And so that's why I think it's very helpful to have a two-pronged approach. For me, it was the 12-step world and therapy, like every week, forever. Those two things saved my life, like completely. So that was just one of the huge lessons I got from that. And next time I'll tell you about two other interventions, you could say, that stuck with me and that were super duper hard for me. So I hope this is helpful. You're doing amazing. You're so brilliant. This eating disorder isn't your fault. It's not your fault. unfortunately for us, it is your responsibility, and it is my responsibility on a daily basis. It's my responsibility to continue to heal this and to continue to put my recovery first. And I can say for the last little while, I have put my recovery first, and I continue to do that. And you can see it's coinciding with me healing the fawn in me. The more that I can put my recovery first is a wonderful little guidepost of how the fawn is not in charge anymore. So I hope that's helpful. Love you. Bye.